Second. Okay, ladies, welcome to another self love conversation. You caught me off guard on Facebook. I was trying to get everything ready, but I'm so glad that you guys joined us tonight because we have an amazing guest, Miss Kesha Fisher, and she has a book out called No God Like the Mother. Kesha, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, Keisha, the first thing that I want you to do is just introduce yourself to our audience and just let us know the reason why you actually decided to write this book.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kesha Adjusta Fisher, and I wrote a little tiny book called No God Like the Mother. And, I don't know that I have the answer to why I wrote the book, but I can tell you maybe what was going on in my uh, world. So that led me to writing this project.
Okay.
I have always been intrigued by the relationships we have as young women with our mothers and our aunts and our grandmothers and all the women who end up coming into our lives. And I really wanted to um, share what that experience has been like for people like me, people who I know, um, and because I'd been raised in Nigeria, I knew the stories would have some of that feel.
Mhm.
And I live in the States now, but I really thought I needed to share my experience having lived in Africa and having lived in America and then coming to work with African immigrants and refugees. And all of our stories were the same, even though we had different experiences. And I ended up with this project.
Okay. And some of the stories that you tell, are they focused like on healing? I know you said some is focused on loss, of losing a child, which is something that I would like for you to talk about because I don't even think that people really understand the magnitude of what a person feels when they lose a child. So can you speak about some of that?
I can. I haven't lost a child myself, but
Mm,
I my reasoning for telling stories about child loss is really to expose some of the trauma that's left in the wake of that absence. Right? I think the world expects that when you lose a child, you lay down, shake off your tears, and then come back, do it all over again. Right? It takes 9 months, make another. Right? And I think even with where some of us can bounce back and um, deal with our trauma silently, I just have encountered a lot of women, a lot of my friends who have lost almost or nearly lost themselves from losing their children, and whether it's from a miscarriage or having gone through entire gestation and then losing a child. I just, something about that, about dealing or and healing, or not even wanting to heal, but just something about um, what that might feel like. And so one of the stories in No God Like the Mother is about a woman in a village, a fictional village in Nigeria. And she's very young and has had a lot of children and has lost many more than she's been able to keep. She likes to say, I knew you would stay by the way you danced in my belly, right? And so she's telling the story about all the other children that she's had to her daughter, the one child she's had been able to keep. And that, something about, when a mother shares a birth story with their child or the child realizes things about their parent really intrigued me. And I wanted to tell that story. And it ended up being about loss, but I hoped that people also saw that there was healing, and that, as most of us know, if you've lost a parent, that, usually siblings step in, other family members step in. And I wanted the hope to be in the people who end up staying behind to help with that loss. Oh, I'm not getting any sound from you.
I said, I know for sure that I know when people lose a child, especially African American women, we're always in this position where, we have to worry when we get pregnant because most of us have a hard time carrying children. And then most of us, usually die giving childbirth, right?
Yeah.
But when you lose a child, and we spoke to many women with that, when we lose a child, it is something that you never get over,
Right.
right? And we hear from mothers all the time that you never know, you can never tell me how I'm feeling,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. There's no way to comprehend another person's experience, which is why I like to say I haven't had that experience personally, but I have had to hold my friends, right, after they've lost a child. I've listened to stories from my grandmother who had 14 children that survived, but had gone to lay down to birth at least 16 or 17 of them. In
Wow.
the end, only getting to keep 11 or 12.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you hear those stories, and my thinking is, how are you able to cope, right? Because there, if in the case of my grandmother, she had other children at home who still relied on her. She had a
Correct.
spouse. She had to,
Correct.
as we say, keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was young, and she would tell me the stories, she would say, oh, I had this baby, and I named her, so and so, and then I had this son, and I named him. And just, by the time she was telling me the story, and she's in her 70s when she's sharing this with me, it almost feels like that hurt never went away, you know and I just wanted to be able to insert myself into feeling what it was that she must have been feeling as she's sharing these stories with a grandchild, many moons later. And I, even though it was, I think, maybe 13 or 14 when I lived with her, it felt, fresh to me,
Mm-hmm.
and hearing her voice, and hearing the aching, and hearing the loss. Um, and I think I hope I did it justice, right? Because, as you said, it doesn't go away. And the pain in that freshness that lingers long after you've lost your child is really what I was hoping to tap into, when I shared the story of Ayomide and her family in my fictional Niger village.
Right. And so, do you describe in a book some of the things that a woman can do to start that healing process? Like, we know that there's no time limit, but how how can they come out so that they can focus on their other kids if they do have other kids, or try again to have another kid? Because some people, they get afraid, right?
Right. I was going to say, initially the book was going to be titled "The Silence Between Us,"
Mm,
and no one liked it. um, because, and one of the stories in the book is titled "The Silence Between Us." But the reason I initially chose that title is because we don't share enough as women about our
exactly.
experiences.
I agree.
So, and if you, as in my case, have had an experience where, um, something, let's say something bad, like sexual assault happened, or any other kind of abuse, and there are many. In that instance, you're told to be quiet about it, okay? And then, let's say you happen to survive it, then, and you choose to tell your story, you're told again, well, let's not share those stories. It's too sad.
That's
It's too dark.
true.
It's heartbreaking. No one wants to hear about your sadness. Carry your tears and go,
That's right.
right?
Mhm.
And so I think what I found, and the best way that I was able to help my friends and console my friends, and um, people in my family, women in my family who have experienced such losses, was to be present and allow them room to share. Because sometimes just being able to, I'm not saying that they're, that just telling your story heals you of it. There's that saying, you write a book, it's therapeutic and the problems are gone.
Right.
I don't find that to be true. But I think anyone who's had similar experiences, having lost a child, having lost a parent, or lost anyone you care about, or are trying to recover from, the day before yesterday because it was too much, right, of a burden. I think it begins with just being able to say, this thing happened to me. This is how I feel about it. Do you happen to have the tools for me, or do you have the space for me to come grieve? Do you, even if it's just give me the space to be able to share my feelings and then move on and deal with it however I need to, I think is the best way to start. I can't, you know, uh, claim to have the answer to solving, that
Right.
problem. But I
Right.
think just being able to share it without judgment is the easiest way to begin to move forward.
And that's the most important thing that you said, sharing without judgment, because a lot of people do judge. The way our society is to say, oh well, that didn't work out, so you can always have another child, you can always try again, you have other kids, you put your love in your other kids, and you should be fine. But it creates a different dynamic, would you agree, when the mom, where you lost a child, or the family loses a child, and then now you're trying to be a mother to your kids, you want to be there for them, and
Hmm.
you feel like you can't grieve, you feel like you can't do that because they're looking at you saying, well, what about me? I'm
Oh,
still here.
Gloria, you're nailing it. Yes, we focused on the first story in that fictional village, but another story in the book titled Sleep does touch on exactly that. A woman who has had her child stolen, and not a loss out of the body, but a loss out of the world, right?
Mhm.
And has another child in the home, has a spouse who wants her to just pull it together and,
Right.
get up and be strong, do it. Let's come on. I'm still here. Look at me. Let's be in love and happy. We have one other child. We have this beautiful home. Our life is great. And the one thing she says when they're in a therapy session, let me tell you something. I love and respect anyone who is willing to go and find healing however they need to. But I'll tell you for myself, I love my therapist. I need her in my life. And anyway, so I read about this therapy session in that story, Sleep. And the one thing she says after her therapist is saying, well, what can we do to fix this? And the husband is like, well, everything's fine. Yes, we lost our child, but everything's fine. We're all here. All the neighbors came, everyone came to help you. And she says, I just want my baby back, you
Mm.
know? And how do you help someone when the one thing they want is the exact thing you can't give to them? So I'm just hoping that, you know, we if we are to encounter people, and we know this is not an issue that goes away, right? There are many kinds of losses, but if you're fortunate enough to have someone come to you, come at your feet and beg for your ears, right? And if that's all they're asking for, please give it. Sometimes just being able to say, I feel sad, I am hurt, I miss my person,
Mm.
and being or feeling like you've been heard sometimes is enough.
Right.
And and I think that was the point of that story in Sleep, um was just her being able to say, this is what I want. I know I'll never be able to get it, but I need to be able to say that I miss my baby and I want him back, and I hate the world for having done this to me. And maybe that's sufficient and maybe it's not, but having the room to be able to do so is, I think it speaks volumes.
Yeah, having a room, having a space, being able to be vulnerable and express yourself. We had a couple of women at our workshop when we could do workshops.
Right.
who said, nobody in this room can tell me how I feel unless you lost a child.
Yeah.
And nobody can tell me to get over it, because it will never happen. And one of the ladies would say, she said, every birthday, Mother's Day, um, thinking about what happened, nobody can actually, tell me how to feel, right? So I said, what will be what will be the most beneficial to you so that you can start to heal? And she said, him being here.
Yeah.
And I said, well, knowing that that can't happen, what else would you do in order to start healing? And she said, well, I don't know. And I said, well, how about just talking about who he was to people
Uh,
and how much you love him, and how much he has helped you in your life while he was here. Because see, that's what people get. Being able to tell that story and have that space allows them to open up and see. And she said, I really never thought about that. I just, keep him close with me because
uh,
I don't want my other kids to think that it's all about him. And, I said, well, that's where you got to get them involved too, because they have memories and stories too, right?
yeah.
And so I
Absolutely.
like what you said about that, creating that space, because I believe the way that you grieve uh, is honoring that person.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
there's a reason why they came, and there's a reason why they're here, that they left, but at the same time, the time that they spent is the
Yeah.
time that you should honor, right?
That's the, yeah, right. Why can't there be, um again, I'm not speaking to how anyone chooses to grieve. I think it's a very
Right.
personal choice. The way, if your choice is to crawl under your sheets or blankets for the rest of time, do so. If it's shouting at the top of a mountain that your heart's broken, do that. I think, yes, along with allowing room is to also not push someone to, to grieve in a way that makes us comfortable, you
Right.
know and I love the idea of telling stories about who someone was, and hoping to hang on to who we want them to be in the time that we had them, right, in our lives. And I mean, that's the beauty of storytelling,
Right.
right? No one ever dies, right,
Right.
if you continue telling their stories. And I mean, maybe that's why I'm here to and writing today and telling all the stories that I wasn't allowed to share when I was a child, and with a big mouth. um but I love the idea of keeping memories alive, because we share stories. When I told, I mean, I had a pretty rough go at my childhood, and I've had to find ways around clinging onto the world before I lost myself in it. And and I'm writing about all of those experiences now for the next book. And what I'm finding is I'm getting to walk back through a lot of those doors. And yes, I was sad about a lot of things, but it really does feel like I'm getting to live through, while I'm having to experience some of the hard times, I'm getting to live through the good times too.
Right.
And it's beautiful. It's terrifying, but it does feel like, when I'm telling the story about how we used to sit under the mango tree and wait for it, for them to fall on our heads, like I can smell it again, or I can, feel the breeze on my skin. So yes, storytelling for me is one of the great loves of my life. And I think if it helps someone to sort through their burdens by being able to share their thoughts and share their feelings, and and move however it feels most comfortable for them, yes, please do it. um, right. I can't imagine a world without stories and without being able to share my stories,
Right.
for whatever reason.
Exactly. So tell our audience how to get this amazing book and how to follow you and any of the things that you have coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Gloria. No God Like the Mother came out last year. I won the Oregon Book Award for my fiction collection, the Kenkisi Award. Yes, 2020 Best Fiction of the Year. Can you believe it? My debut project.
Wow.
Okay, that's all of the gloating I'll do. And I told stories about mothers and all the surrogates that step in when we lose our mothers, the communities we form when we lose ourselves. And I'm so thankful that it's being received in the way it's been received. You can find it on my website, Kesha@justafisher.com. You can find it with the title wherever books are sold. I walked into a bookstore not long ago and it was sitting there next to Barack Obama's book, and I couldn't believe it. There it is behind me.
Wow.
So I am thankful, yes, that even during a pandemic, my one dream came true. And I love hearing from people about their thoughts. It's the best part of the whole process is getting to share these stories and hearing how it's touched others. So anyone curious about chatting with me, please hit me up on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on the Twitter. I'm sure my publicist will say I missed something, but you can find me on all the internets. I'm there and, ready and willing to, discuss.
Exactly. Kesha, thank you so much for being here. We'll
Thank you,
definitely
Gloria.
get the word out about your book. I think it's amazing, and I think it's something
Thank you.
for any woman, any Black woman, any woman period will be able
Yeah.
to relate to and know and understand. Just that they're not alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
That they're not alone.
Absolutely. My goal was to have, tell stories that transcended cultures and draws everyone in. You're a woman, you will feel this. You don't have to be African to, walk in the shoes of all of these characters. And I hope that feeling empathy and feeling human leads anything else when you come with us on this journey and know God like the mother.
Amazing. Kesha,
Okay.
thank you so much for being here. I
Thank you
appreciate
so much, Gloria.
Oh, no
All
worries.
right. Enjoy the rest of your evening on the East Coast.
All right, I will.
All right. We'll meet soon.
Very soon.
All right. Thank you so much again.
Bye.